Hey guys, happy Friday. So we are 9 weeks or 8 weeks. I finished reading the TC, which is the main big book. I'm still waiting to hear from PEBC of where I'm going to take my exam. I want to book my flights because I chose to take my exam in Ottawa. So I'm just waiting to hear back from the PEBC, and then I'm going to book my flights.
Is the number one divided by the absolute risk reduction. And here's the key word, absolute.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to finally have this video available for you guys. Oh my gosh, it has been a long time coming. I know it's been a long time coming, and I'm so sorry for the delay in getting this video out. So if you don't know me, my name is Ore Adeboyega, or better known as Ore Supasta on social media, and I'm a clinical pharmacist. I am a qualified clinical pharmacist in North America, and also, I don't know why I say North America, in Canada and in the United Kingdom. In this video, I'm basically going to go through all the details on how I passed the Pharmacy Examining Board of Canada exams first time. So I'm going to be talking from a perspective of a pharmacist that was already qualified in another country. A lot of people have been asking me questions. A lot of you guys are interested in qualifying in Canada. So that's why I decided to do this video. I am not going to go into any details on what it's like, working as a pharmacist in Canada, what it's like, if it's different to the UK, because I want to really just focus on what you need to do to actually pass the exams and get to the point where you're working and stuff like that. Okay, so it's a long process. I'm going to manage your expectations. I'm going to try and just literally stick to helping you understand that it is tough, but it is doable. The process can be quite expensive and the process can be quite tedious, but if it's your goal and your desire and something that you've always wanted to do, then I would say 110% go for it and do it. So the first process in qualifying in Canada is for you, if you are a qualified pharmacist in another country, you need to go and register with the Pharmacist Gateway Canada. This is a requirement whether you're a student, whether you are a pharmacist. So even if you just graduated from pharmacy school, everybody has to register with the Pharmacist Gateway Canada website. I'm just looking at my Pharmacist Gateway Canada profile. So basically this is just kind of showing me where I'm at in terms of my progress, my kind of progress to becoming a pharmacist. I've registered with Ontario College of Pharmacists because that's where I want to practice. So I've done my document evaluation, I've done my EE, I'm now about to do my QE. Register, so you get an identification number. That identification number follows you through the whole process and your whole journey. And every time you pass a stage or you pass a part of the journey, it will be ticked off, and you'll see on your, it's kind of like a progress chart. You'll be able to see that you've made progress or whatever, and you're moving to the next stage. Registration costs, when I done it, was probably about 380 Canadian dollars or $400. So a little bit on the pricey side, just for registration to get a unique number. When you do register on the website, it will ask you what province you want to practice in. So before I continue, I need to basically let you know that if you are registered or qualified to practice in Ontario, for example, that's a province in Canada, doesn't mean that you can practice in Manitoba or in Saskatchewan. They're very different provinces. So every province has a different pharmacy registration body, and therefore different things are required of you in order for you to practice there. So it's a very big country. It's not like the UK, because in the UK, I was qualified with the GPHC, which meant I could practice anywhere in the UK. I could practice if I wanted to. I could go to Cardiff. I could, I don't know whether it's the same for Scotland, but I know I could go to Leeds. I could move from London to Leeds and still practice. So it's not the same. Once you've registered with with Pharmacist Gateway Canada, you then need to go and start your process with PEBC. PEBC is the Pharmacy Examining Board of Canada, and basically they run everything. They set the exams, the qualifying exams. They set all the exams that you need to do for you to qualify as a pharmacist before you then go and register with a pharmacy body. So the first part of the process is for you to do what they call a document evaluation. The document evaluation process is basically them evaluating your degree. So is your degree, did you graduate from a reputable pharmacy school? Do you have a degree that allows you to basically sit their exams? So they're literally evaluating whether you're good enough to sit the exams and whether you need to do any extra things before you can sit the Canadian boards. The document evaluation, you just fill out forms. They give you forms to fill out. Most of the forms that you fill out with the PEBC, you have to get them countersigned by a lawyer or an attorney or whatever, so that they just know that they're, you know, legit. You have to do passport photographs, all that kind of official stuff. Along with your document evaluation, you have to also get your transcripts. So your university transcripts have to be sent to the PEBC directly from your university. So you can't send them yourself. So you have to contact your uni, and you have to do this if you're a student as well. Contact your uni, get them to send the PEBC your transcripts, so all your results from level 1 pharmacy school to level 4, or however many years you've done your pharmacy school. If you're a qualified pharmacist in another country, so for me, I was qualified in the UK, I had to contact the General Pharmacy Council, and they basically had to send the PEBC a letter of good standing. So basically that was just a letter saying so-and-so is qualified pharmacist in the United Kingdom, and so-and-so has practiced for so-and-so years. So on top of the cost that I paid the PEBC for the document evaluation form, you may have to pay your university a fee for sending those transcripts. I didn't have to do that because my university is just amazing, okay? I then had to also pay the General Pharmacy Council a fee for them to send the letter of good standing, and obviously you have to pay lawyer fees and so on and so forth. You can't scan these letters to the PEBC, so they have to be sent, as in posted, to Canada, and they're based in Toronto, so you have to post them wherever you are so that it gets to them. So these, obviously, in your head you're thinking these are extra costs and stuff like that as well. After the document evaluation stage, the second stage is basically sitting the evaluating exam. The evaluating exam is the first qualifying exam for international students. So the evaluating exam will basically evaluate your pharmacy knowledge from level 1 pharmacy to level 4. With the evaluating examination, they can ask you varying questions. They can ask you about M1 receptors, they can ask you about benzene rings, they can ask you anything, literally just anything to do with pharmacy, chemistry, biology, they can ask you. So it's quite a vague exam in the sense that I think it's quite hard to study for that exam because there's just so many different things that can be asked. However, on the PEBC website, they do have a list of, you know, kind of like a curriculum, so what you need to study, what they expect of you and things like that. So I use that as a guide to help me kind of know what I need to study for, the things I need to be looking at and reviewing. It's more of like a review exam, I would say. So you register for the exam. As I said, you go on the PEBC website, you fill out the forms to register for the exam, and you start studying for the exam. So from the moment of registration, start studying, because PEBC, they don't always send you a confirmation straight away, especially if you're sending from the UK. It can take a long time to get there. And then if you're now waiting, let me see if, you know, they will send me back a confirmation, all that kind of jazz. Just start studying from the time. And if there's an issue with your application or something, they will let you know, but start studying from the get-go. I would recommend you study for at least 5 to 6 months for the EE, okay? With the EE, they do that exam twice in a year. So they do it in January and they do it in July, okay? I would recommend you doing it, studying 5 months, minimum 5 months in advance. And if you're working so for me, I was working full-time pharmacist in the UK at the time. I was doing on calls. I was also doing my clinical diploma. Another evening, leaving work. It's like almost 9 p.m. now, and I'm just leaving, gonna go home. Today I done infectious diseases, and infectious diseases. I'm gonna go home and continue. I've got 2 more topics to do. I'll do that tonight before going to bed. The grind is continuing. I have 35 days till this exam now. So yeah, it was a lot. So I gave myself a lot more time to study because then I could space out the studying. How do you study for the EE? I used A-level chemistry and biology books just for my basic knowledge to kind of help me to get that basic understanding and get my mind back to kind of understanding just basic simple chemistry. So I'd recommend, if you have any of your A-level books, maybe using those to help you remember things. Also, if you have any of your chemistry books from pharmacy school, your pharmaceutics books that you may have used as well. Two of the main essential books that I used that were not from previous educational journeys, I used a book called The Comprehensive Pharmacy Review. It's normally the book that they use for the NAPLEX exams in America, but it's also really, really good for the Canadian ones. But you have to be quite careful because drug names are different and stuff like that as well. So you just need to be a little bit careful, but it covers kind of general, it's like, as it said, a pharmacy review book. The second book that I use is MISPA. So MISPA, Dr. MISPA, I think he's called. He has a evaluating examination review book, has a lot of great information in there. He also has questions as well after chapters, which basically will help you to kind of test yourself and things like that. One of the things with the PEBC is they do not share past papers. They do not give you, they don't share past papers. They do not allow you to talk about every time you sit an exam with the PEBC, you have to sign a form. I cannot share any information. I can't share anything with you. I can't tell you what I got in my exam. I can't share anything because you signed basically a non-disclaimer and you're not allowed to share any previous information. So unfortunately, I can't put anything out about my exam. What I will say is that it's very important for you to try and, if you can, get the MISPA book, Dr. MISPA book for the evaluating exam, and go through it, do the questions, test yourself as much as you can. So evaluating exam costs, I don't know, I can't remember actually. I think it definitely costs over $1,000 Canadian dollars to do the exam. You pay that fee when you are filling out the form, so at the point of registration. The other thing to note is I done the exam in England, so the evaluation exam you can actually do in England, in London, but there was an extra fee of 500 Canadian dollars. 500. Anyways, 500 Canadian dollars to sit the exam in England. So depending on where you are at, you can actually you can pay that fee and it will save you costs on things like your travel, and hotels and stuff like that, because it's quite cheaper to do that. Okay, so move the camera a little bit. So the next part is the qualifying exam. So the qualifying examination is the big exam that everybody is normally quite anxious about. Most people, are worried, are they going to pass? Are they not going to pass? And stuff like that. And this exam comes in two parts. So it's quite a tedious exam. It's quite an expensive exam. It's quite a stressful exam. A lot of people have been asking me, is it the same as the GPHC exams? I wouldn't like to compare them because, again, it's a different country, different pharmacy systems, different pharmacy names. Everything is different. So I personally would not like to compare them. What I will say with the QE, the qualifying exam, is that you have to go in with a fresh mind, ready to work extremely hard, because it can be an extremely tough exam. So the qualifying examination, they do this exam twice a year also. They do the exam in May and they do the exam in November. A lot of people think, they like to do their EE in January and then do their QE in May. I personally wouldn't recommend that. If you can, maybe if you have the funds and the money to do it and the time, maybe do the EE in January and then do the QE in November. You could potentially do that because then you get qualified in the year, assuming that you pass both exams first time. In terms of exam results between the two, they don't take too long to send you exam results. I think the qualifying exam, they took longer to send us results, so it's probably around 4 to 6 weeks for the results, I think. Whereas the EE, I remember getting my results sooner, so I think about 4 weeks for the evaluating examination. So the qualifying examination comes in two parts. There is an MCQ and an OSCE. People think MCQ, wow, that's so easy. Like MCQs are so easy. It's just multiple choice. Actually, No, these are, you'll get a paragraph. It probably will take you longer to read the paragraph than it takes you to answer the question or pick the answer. So it's quite a tedious, hectic, time-consuming MCQ. So you have to really, really know your stuff, really, really study, very, very hard. So yeah, definitely don't look at it lightly. With the qualifying examination, studying for the MCQ, I mainly use, and most people use, books available from the Canadian Pharmacists Association. They do the CTC, which is Therapeutic Choices, and it's kind of the standard Bible or book for these exams. A lot of your questions are going to come from that book. It's very important to make sure that you do not selectively revise. This is not one of those exams where you can selectively revise and choose what to study. You will fail. You need to study and cover as much as you can. That's why I would recommend at least 6 to 8 months. 6 months, I think. If you're working full time, I don't think 6 months is enough. I think if you're working full time and you're busy, you have a busy schedule, you need more than 6 months. But give yourself at least 8 months to study for this exam and prepare for it very, very well so that you don't have to do it again. And I'll tell you why at the end. So yeah, Therapeutic Choices was the main book I used, but there are other resources that you have to use as well, because not everything will come from there. So you need to look at things like the ISMP website, you need to look at the CADTH website, you need to look at things like the Canadian Diabetes Association, the Canadian Cardiology or Hypertension Association, all that kind of stuff. Again, the PEBC have on their website all the details, so everything is basically on the website in terms of what they want you, or the resources that they have, or they would recommend you to use, basically. This is for the MCQ. For the OSCE, OSCE is basically a face-to-face physical examination, an oral examination, and if you've been through pharmacy school, you've probably done an OSCE at some point. If you're a pharmacist, you've definitely done an OSCE at some point in your career or on your journey to get to being a pharmacist. So it's, again, as I said, it's quite a tough exam. The OSCE is about 5 hours long, I think. I think it's about, from the moment you enter to the moment you leave, it's about 5 hour gap. So it's quite an intense examination. You have 20 stations, I believe. All the information is on the PBC website again, so I'm not going to go into too much detail because I just want to kind of put something out there so that you guys can get a first-hand you can get to see someone's experience firsthand. Okay. So the OSCE, yeah, it's 5 hours long, very, very long exam, very intense exam as well, but it's doable. That's all I can keep saying. It's a doable examination. OSCE, you get 20 stations and you basically have to behave as you would in practice. So you could walk into station 1 and it could be anything. It could be anything. It could be a calculation. You could walk into station 2 and it could be anything. It could be a patient coming to buy something from your pharmacy, but you have to behave as you would in practice as a pharmacist. So with this, again, using your therapeutic choices that you're using to study for the OSCE, for the MCQ, would be great for the OSCE as well, because the knowledge you learn from the therapeutic choices will be very beneficial when you are sitting the OSCE exam. The other book that's quite good is called the CTMA, which is basically just the minor ailments book. Again, these books are available on the Canadian Pharmacists Association website. You can buy the physical book, but actually what I done is I bought the app. So they have an app called RxTX or something, and on the Canadian Pharmacists Association website you can basically purchase or pay for a year. So I paid for a year. That was probably about £85 or something, and for that year you get access to 2 or 3 books, and that enables you to be able to use all the resources that you need depending on the package that you basically buy. So the CTMA is very good for your minor ailments and understanding stuff. Along with studying these books, I would recommend, if you can, come to Canada. You have to do these exams in Canada, by the way. So the MCQ and the OSCE, you have to physically do them in Canada. I would recommend, if you can, coming to work in Canada, because if you're a pharmacist in the UK and you come and do the exam without kind of seeing and knowing the products available, you can get very confused because it's not the same. I'll give you an example. So in England, we use acyclovir. If you have a cold sore, I'm going to recommend acyclovir to you. In Canada, Acyclovir is not available over the counter. So these are the differences. You have to kind of just be, you have to be in the environment to better understand it. So I would recommend, if you can, get experience, even if it's for 2 months before your exam, and you can get some experience and you can just work in a pharmacy a couple days a week, just so that you can see things firsthand. It will definitely help you when it comes to writing your exam. The MCQ is also about 4.5 to 5 hour exam because you have 2 papers, so they are quite long exams. The EE as well, I think it's electronic now, but I think before it used to be, when I done it, it was paper exam. So we had 2 days and each exam was about 4-5 hours, I don't know. So these exams are quite hard, they're quite intense, so you have to be very calm, very cool, very collected. And the other thing I would recommend is, in Canada they have so many programs available. One of the ones I can remember is like PharmAchieve, I think. There are really, really good programs available for international pharmacists that you can be a part of. You can sign up for these programs and do them. They do like OSCE practices. I didn't do any of them, by the way. I didn't do any of them. But I studied extremely hard. It's like pre-reg all over again, but worse because you have, like, I drive almost 2 hours to work. Friday night, and I'm still at work. It's currently almost 9 p.m. And just still studying for this QE. And I really can't wait till it's over, honestly. Like, it's taken so much of my energy. It's stressing me out and so many different things. I'm doing my flashcards today, so I'm just gonna have these so that if I'm like on a bus, in a plane, whatever, like I can just take these with me and I can read. So I'm just like going over the whole TC book again. Doing questions and calculations. That's kind of what I'm doing over the next couple of weeks. I've got 6 weeks to sit the exam.
And it gets converted and excreted as something different called conjugated.
Or minus groups pick up a proton and become COOH.
Thank God I had a friend who was doing the exam as well, so we kind of just studied together. In terms of our OSCE, we would do video calls and practice, together, kind of counselling and things like that.
Okay, can I just ask a few questions about your son?
Yeah, that's
fine. So you say that your son is 4 years old?
Yeah, he's 4 years old currently.
4 years old, okay. Is he on any medication at all?
Oh, nothing. He's been completely healthy since birth. Okay. Normal pregnancy, everything.
Okay. Does he have any allergies, to any drugs or anything?
No, none that I know of, no.
And hasn't been on any recent short-term treatment?
No treatment, no.
Okay, so to me it sounds like your son may have something we call pinworms. So threadworms, basically.
Worms.
Yeah.
There's also a structure, a way they want you to answer your questions in the OSCE. Again, all of this is on the PEBC website. So on the PEBC website, they actually have details or OSCE practice videos. They have MCQ practice questions that you can go through and look through very, very well. I would definitely recommend, if you can, join one of the programs, do those programs, because as I said, they do OSCE practice, they do MCQ practice, they give you so much information that you may not get if you're practicing and studying on your own. Another point I want to make clear is that as part of the exam as well, you might be required to know things like billing and, understanding the Canadian health system, insurance and stuff like that. What does the Canadian government cover when it comes to healthcare? So again, that's why it would be really, really good to, if you can, join a program. And if you can't join a program, trying to extend your research in where you find information, and even typing in random Google searches can give you answers to some of these questions. Cost. A lot of people have been asking me, how much does it cost? Is it expensive? So I've given you kind of a vague, understanding on pricing for the document evaluation. I've told you about the Pharmacist Gateway Canada, how much that costs. I've told you about the EE, how much that costs. So I said it was about 1,000 Canadian for the exam and the forms and everything, minus lawyer fees that you have to do. And then doing the exam in England is an extra 500 Canadian. The qualifying examination, I think the OSCE alone is over $1,000 Canadian dollars, just the OSCE. Can't remember how much the MCQ is, but again, all the fees are on the PEBC website. They have all the fees there so you can see. The only extra fees you need to think of are, you know, postage fees, quite expensive to post to Canada from the UK, and postage fees, lawyer or attorney fees. You need to think of flights. Obviously, you're going to come to do the exam. You need to think of your accommodation fees if you're going to stay in hotels and stuff like that. A lot of people have been also telling me that they've been discouraged to not do the exam. Now, one thing I'm going to say, and I'm going to just close the video off on this, if you're a young professional, whether you're in healthcare or whatever, I would 110% recommend international experience. I think that it makes you versatile. For me, when I was in the UK, I've worked as a hospital pharmacist, I was working in community or retail, but I was also working in other kind of sectors and areas, and I think that enables you to be versatile. So if you actually see a position somewhere and it's retail, I can say, oh yeah, I'll take that job because I've done it before. Working internationally, it gives you exposure. It allows you to see what your profession is like and how it's run in another country. But it also allows you and enables you to bring in the knowledge that you have from your country and be an asset, basically, in the new place that you are. So if you're young and you are able to, I would 110% recommend that you do it. Obviously, it's not easy, and it's expensive, it's tough, and it can be challenging, but at the same time, I think it's very, very, very beneficial. I did want to say, and I wanted to make very clear, for international pharmacists, I think it's different for different provinces, but I will say for Ontario, because that's the province that I've chosen to be in. In Ontario, if you are an international pharmacist and you do not pass the PEBC exams the first time, you are required to do a 6 to 18 month program that is going to cost you a minimum of 13,000 Canadian dollars. So that means you have to pass first time. Otherwise, you're going to do the exam, and maybe you pass the second time, yes, but then you still have to do a mandatory course in order for you to actually practice. And that's just extra costs. So I think it's very important for you to think very deeply as to whether you want to start this journey and when you want to start this journey, and do it when you are ready and you are willing to commit to at least 12 months of not having fun, 12 months of basically shutting your social life away and putting your head down and studying. I'd 110% recommend you doing your own research. But if you have any questions and you want to ask me anything, please feel free. One of the things I haven't talked about or I haven't mentioned is calculations. Pharmacy students, pharmacists, you know that calculations runs all the way through our career. So in all the exams that you're going to study for, make sure you study calculations. The books that I use a book by Ansel, and it's a really good calculations book. So very, very good way to practice. I also used a book I got at pre-reg, which was given to me by Lloyd's Pharmacy, because I've done my pre-reg of Lloyd's Pharmacy in England. And that was another very, very good book that I used. If you have any questions, please feel free. Make sure you're following me on Instagram at Supasta, and feel free to email me. My email details are in the description box. If you have any questions, I can definitely redirect you to people if you need help on how to pass and what to study. I'm also probably going to set up a support group for people who may be interested in qualifying, and if you need support information and things like that, feel free to get in touch with me. I'm more than happy to answer these questions. And if anybody's sitting the exams very soon, I wish you the best of luck. Make sure that you study extremely hard, cover as much as you can. Don't leave anything unturned. Literally, don't leave anything unturned. Cover everything if you can. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please share, subscribe, whatever you need to do to make sure that I am on your timelines all the time. And I'll see you guys soon.